with the millions.
It's that world heavyweight flow. Championship belt wrapped around my waist. Yo, I got that Ric Flair figure flow. Slam you on the pavement, that's why they call me Street Pro. Create heat on beat flow. Like Jordan after the second time he three-peated, folks. Get ready, set, let's go. Fight toe to toe, release the flow created by this mic pro. Lights, camera, get low. Action packed, back to back. In fact, this monster will grow. Y'all better let him know. Man with the master plan, and you have no need to know. You came prepared, now get ready for the show.
Sports Professor. Oh, shit. Yo, what up, friends? Welcome back. We had to do a little restart there due to some technical difficulties, but that happens here in life. Now we are back and happy to get started. Let me turn this ring light up again, but thank you for joining in. I am Omar, the Professor Fonseca, and welcome to the Professor's Semanalmente. Now, we can't be too joyful because we got a lot of stuff going on in the world, and a lot of news is coming in hot and heavy all day. I've been watching every single news station, keeping up to date on all the lines, all the sources that I have. I've been talking to people, I've been calling people, and we have a lot to get to today, and we are not even going to worry about anything else. I do want to do just to make sure, as we always do on the top of the program before we get into everything, please make sure that you subscribe at Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS on YouTube is the most important place to go subscribe, but also we are on IG if you want to follow us there, Twitter, elsewhere. By the way, that handy QR code right up top, that will take you to our link tree, which you can then follow, which you can then find all of our social medias as well. This week, huge week tonight. Obviously, we're doing the news. We'll also do sports and entertainment. I got Canteen, my brother from formerly the Bottom Line Sports, coming in to join today. So that's going to be fun. We'll talk some sports later, obviously, after we get through with the most important news first. But then tomorrow night, make sure you tune in tomorrow night as well on Ball and Buds. We will have an NBA roundtable with some of the most expert basketball minds that I love to listen to. First, we'll have my original podcast brother that actually gave me feedback when I first started out. My brother Jay from Unfair Sports will be joining us. He is an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, so get that perspective. We'll also have my brother and a very astute mind. I watch him every day. Mel from Man Down Sports will as well be with us tomorrow night. And finally, last but certainly not least, from Audible Sports Podcast, Audible Reacts, Bobby G will be with us on Ball and Buds for the first time ever. Happy to have him in. He's a brother of Wild Carmar, who is obviously family on this network. So we are happy to have that tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you tune into that. And then Thursday, the Boxing Voltron crew will reunite for a Let's Go Boxing Champs picks group, prediction show, and news. So we'll be promoting the boxing predictions group run by Champ Ross that we have, obviously, and we'll be promoting that. We're talking boxing news, boxing fights, things like that. And finally, to end the huge week, Saturday, we have not come up with a time yet, to be determined, but Clubber D, the Combat G's Combat Sports for UFC 317, gonna be a good one. Really good card. So y'all make sure you tune in to check out Clubber D, the Combat G, and yours truly to go ahead and preview 317. Cool. That is the huge week for Ball and Buds. 4 shows this week. We'll also have 3 more next week. I'll talk about that at the end of the show. But for now, it is time to get into the most important news. And probably, you're wondering what is going on in the world right now? Well, as always, I'm here to update you. I told you that I have been staying up to date all day long. I have been watching every single news network, and I mean every single one. If you've watched it before, or if it's your favorite one, I probably watched it today. I also had all my lines of communication open. I was on the phone, I was on the computer, I was looking at my sources and talking to sources about everything that happened and occurred over this weekend, and it got crazy. And y'all, there were some pros and cons for the United States in what happened this past weekend. First of all, I mean, unless you live under a rock, you already heard the news that the United States bombed Iran yesterday. So over the weekend, there was a lot of things that happened. Let's go ahead and give you a reminder of everything that happened first from last week, and then we'll get into what happened this past weekend. So remember last week, Israel and Iran Israel first attacked Iran. Obviously, this is not first in this wave. They've been attacking each other for a while. But from last week, Israel was retaliating from a previous attack. Then Iran came back and they were exchanging bombs, as we talked about on this program last weekend. Then things happened. The Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said, they're not going to surrender, and that the Iranian envoy said that they were producing uranium for peaceful purposes. You can debate that whether you'd like or not. Either way, they were going back and forth, and over the weekend, it started to come out that Israel was pushing the issue that Tehran and Iran really did have closer to nuclear capability bomb-wise than anyone else had thought, including the International Watchdog Association and all of these. So that had started there. Then you said, okay, well, then the U.S. was going to say, well, we will let you know if you are going to attack U.S. armed forces or military bases or the like, well, then you should expect a aggressive retaliation. Then on Saturday, it was said that the United States increased the military presence in the Middle East and was also deploying naval carrier groups to include many planes, to include many ships, destroyers, the likes, fighter jets, all over almost 4,500 troops. So a lot of different waves were going out. One of the things that was said that was very inauspicious at the time was when the B-2 bombers were said to have been deploying to Guam. So why do I say that? I was in the Air Force, so I know a lot about these sorts of things. But one thing most people know about the B-2 bomber, you didn't have to be in the military, it's a stealth bomber. The whole point of it is not to be seen. The whole point of it is not to be heard about or talked about. So very odd that we would announce that they were headed there. As I thought, just a little bit of classic military deception. And that's exactly what that was. A little bit of fake out if you're into sports. A little bit of fake out. Let them know we're moving the bombers over here, but not yet close to you. And then next thing you know, bada boom, bada bing, bam, bam, bow, bombed all three of their nuclear facilities, their main nuclear facilities, rather. There's obviously other sub facilities, but they did bomb the three main facilities there in Iran, including Fordow, which was being announced over the weekend as being the main one and the one in which the United States were the only available to, only ones that had the capability, rather, to at all for these bombs, these heavy bunker buster bombs. So these bunker buster bombs, 30,000 pound bombs, are used. They're called, in military parlance, GBU 57, a massive ordnance penetrator, MOP. Fire! Shout out MOP. Love me some MOP. Anyways, yep, fools. Anyways, so the B-2 bombers struck these through 3 nuclear sites, and with these bunker buster bombs, looked to employ maximum damage to the nuclear program in Iran. So, now that we have caught you up a little bit through the weekend, right? There was also something that went completely under the radar that no one talked about. But at one point over the weekend, Iran actually used cluster munitions against Israel. Now, cluster munitions are actually banned by 120 countries under the 2008 Convention on Cluster Munitions because they're dangerous and pose risks to civilian life due to the fact that a lot of these explosives out of these cluster munitions ends up stuck in the ground as still live and later end up becoming bombs for civilians to find, step on, whatever, right? Activate. So, interestingly enough, the United States, Iran, and Israel, the 3 main players here, did not sign that agreement. So technically, they all consider them to be still military useful. Also, just as note, Russia and China also not signees on that. So just wanted to give you a professor's fact there. But anyways, so the conflict intensified. Israel at one point was also, and we'll talk about this more in a little bit, threatening the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz, which a lot of the oil and gas that is provided worldwide goes through. So we'll talk about that more in a little bit. Anyways, there was a lot of talk over the weekend about what could President Trump do. So, lo and behold, U.S. Central Command, salute to the U.S. CENTCOM, who did a masterful job of keeping this under wraps. And as a member who can appreciate security, informational security, things like that, when it comes to military engagements and operations, this was fantastically done in that in that aspect of it. Now, Operation Midnight Hammer, as we talked about, precision strike on those 3 facilities, the other 2 being Natanz and Isfahan, this happened in the middle of the night. It was to, severely destroy, degrade Iran's nuclear program. Again, Israel pushed the fact that they were closer to a nuclear bomb than anyone else had previously thought, including Secretary of National Security Tulsi Gabbard, who also said that they did not have updated intelligence that said that. This is just allegedly. You can go wherever you want with that, but a lot of people saw that as Israel controlling the United States, as Benjamin Netanyahu controlling Donald Trump and his actions. Some people saw it like that. Either way, I did say at one point that Israel didn't need us. Now, granted, we were the only ones that could technically deliver that bunker buster bomb. So depending on how you feel, how far they were towards nuclear capability, which again, let me remind you, last week, the last updated research we had, they were at 30%. Well, it only takes 6 weeks to get to 90%, and then you have a bomb. So again, if you're looking to completely destroy these powers, then yeah, you want to do something to take them out, because obviously as more time goes on, these bombs can be easily created. The more that you enrich your uranium, the more that you are, getting to that purification level. That being said, and we'll get back to this in a second, how much did the United States actually affect? So let's go through the timeline here of what actually happened. So again, we talked about those B-2 bombers being deployed. Very well done by the Air Force, 18-hour flight. One of my favorite things that I learned when I joined the Air Force early on was how planes refueled themselves midair. And it, to me, is one of the most fascinating things ever, that you can have two planes flying at this sort of speed and velocity and have two pilots manage to keep the planes so close together where they can fit the gas hose from one plane into it's amazing. Anyways, so they had to do that multiple times to be able to get the bombers obviously from here to there without also, by the way, they are stealth bombers, the whole point, not being seen. Got in, got out, apparently no shots. That's fantastic. You can't be mad at that at all. Going without being, that's the whole point of the B-2 bomber. So salute to my Air Force brethren. I love y'all. Anyways, 6:40, 7:05, no shots known to be fired as they got out of Iran. U.S. calls the strikes very successful. Obliterating was the wording that President Donald Trump had afterwards. General Kane, who is colloquially known as Raising Cane, said that they cannot obviously assess total damage yet, but that they think that they damaged a pretty good amount of it. Now, if you actually go look, and I'm not saying they did not do damage, but if you actually go look at the satellite images from before and from after the attack, there are issues with the tunnels that enter the facility. There are some craters that you see along the mainland there around the nuclear facilities. But we cannot actually tell how much actual damage was sustained to the actual facility underground, because remember, their nuclear facility is built, way underground, miles underground. So that way, that's the reason we needed those bunker buster bombs in the first place, was because we were the only ones that had a heavy enough ordnance to be able to take out that sort of thing. But even if you have the heavy enough ordnance to be able to take out the nuclear facility, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to, even if you were to get a direct hit. So we cannot assess the total damage at this point. But one thing that I can say is that looking at the satellite images from before and after, obliteration may be too far of a term. I think that we severely denigrated. I think we disintegrated some of their capabilities. Setback for sure. Obliterated, I would not think so, though, from the satellite images and my assessment. I believe that it may have just been a setback. And at that point, we also don't know exactly where they're keeping all of that uranium. And if we don't know we don't know what if now they just start ramping it up more, right? Which gets us to our next point on this. There was breaking news right before I came on, which is why it kept taking me. I was supposed to come on at 6 or 7 Eastern, Didn't end up coming on until 7:30 because I kept having breaking news coming through all of the news wires that were saying about, first of all, it was said that Israel and Iran were having a ceasefire. Then it was said that President Trump, after he announced that there were going to be a deal on the nuclear. And then all of a sudden, I'm about to jump on, and they say, oh, there's been now missile activity over Tehran. So apparently Israel just a couple hours ago warned people to get out of Tehran, and now they're bombing Iran again. So forget my next slide. Screw the hell out of me. The news goes so fast. No, apparently there is no ceasefire because Israel is just bombing Iran a second ago. So where does that leave us after all of this? As I said, if the uranium that Iran had possessed beforehand is still under their control somewhere else, and the nuclear facilities were not obliterated, and they can actually start repurifying and centrifuging all of these nuclear capabilities, again, depending on how much of a setback you want to call it, they could be nuclear capable within 3 months, probably. Now, again, we don't know the total assessment, so I'm just saying from where we know they were, at least, which was 6 weeks away, and that was a few weeks ago, it just all depends how much we actually affected those underground facilities all the way under where those bombs actually landed. Now, what else happened today? Then word came out that Iran fired missiles at the U.S. airbase in Qatar. Thank God, and prayers for all of our soldiers out there. Thank God my mom is here. She was out there at that same base, deployed there. And so I called her. I was like, thank God you're not there, but we got to pray for the soldiers there. They actually sent missiles towards the base. Now, granted, we have amazing air defense capabilities for missiles all over the world at all of our bases. But also, it then came out later that Iran had actually called President Trump to let him know ahead of time what their plans were. So now we get into what the kind of performative nonsense is going on now. Now, Trump, being the reality TV showman that he is and the businessman that he is, actually understood the point that they were trying to make. Iran was trying to show their people and us that they had the capabilities to attack our military bases, but they also didn't want to actually harm any United States personnel because they knew what would happen if they did, that the United States would then come full force. So it was a hedge of their bets. They said, all right, we're going to send missiles their way, but we're going to let them know ahead of time. That way they can defend them. That way no one gets hurt. But we're letting them know, hey, we are capable of doing this to you. Again, a bunch of performative nonsense between all these countries that are close to or nuclear capable. And it's like, okay, y'all are playing with the lives of hundreds of millions of people around the world, being that 2 of these 3 countries are nuclear capable already and 1 is close to. You all are playing with the lives of all of us around the world with a lot of performance antics, with a lot of performative nonsense, a lot of, oh, we're going to do this to show you who's, I was about to say something I probably can't say on primetime TV, whose wang is bigger. You know what I mean? So it's like, nah, man, we don't need to know whose cojones are bigger when everybody has nuclear capability. We don't need that. We don't want that. That's not what we want and or need. No one around the world. Now, again, these ceasefires, as you see in the slide, very, very light on actual execution. As I mentioned, Israel's already now bombing Iran. So you can throw this out of the window. But the main fact is that this still remains. What remains is we still did bomb their nuclear facilities. And until we get a greater assessment of how much damage we actually did, then we are going to not know how far they still are from actually creating that nuclear bomb. Also, on top of that, let's not act like Iran is not allies of Russia and China. Russia and China both came out and condemned the U.S. bombing. It is said that Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is traveling to meet with Vladimir Putin in Russia. And Russia and China is in talks to be supplying weapons to Iran. Now, I have always said, since I was in the military, that I always thought the first wave of World War III would be us and China. I figured something was going to happen between us and China and that would start off World War III. Well, I've talked to multiple sources, but including the one that I trust the most, that said this is the start of World War III, they believe. So wherever you stand on that, just know that it's not going to get better before it gets worse. And so again, prayers for all the soldiers that we have around the world. Hopefully they all are safe. Right now they are. Obviously their operational security is always performed. They make sure that they have all the missile defense. They make sure that the personnel are not in harm's way. Things like that. So plans. I mean, come on now. We're the best military in the world. we have operational security, operational planning on lock more than any other country in the world, no doubt about it. So even if they didn't warn us beforehand, we still would have been able to, you know, deflect all of those bombs before they reached any of our bases. But it was awful kind of them, I guess, to let us know. I don't know. They don't have very many cards left, though. Like I said, the Iranian army, I said this last week, the Iranian military wasn't going to beat the Israeli military on their own without us. Now that we've shown what we can do to their nuclear capabilities, they're running out of options. They have very few cards to play. Now, the one card they can play that would affect everyone worldwide would be shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. If they shut down the Strait of Hormuz is where a lot of the world's oil and gas go through. Up to 25% of oil and gas that are supplied worldwide go through that Strait of Hormuz. And that's, I mean, it's easy to figure out. Most of the oil producing countries are there in the Middle East that all surround that area. So first of all, look for gas to go up. It's already gone up 7% just off of what has happened so far. And if anything else were to happen, it's only going to go up further. So look for your gas to increase for the foreseeable future. And if they close down the Strait of Hormuz, then you can guarantee your tank is probably going to go above $5 a gallon, if not more. Now, we have not. There's one good point about the United States, and I know this is a very touchy subject in the United States, fracking and, going into our own lands for oil and things like that. Personally, I'm not against it. If you have oil, you might as well drill for it. And this is the reason why, because you don't want to be caught in a situation where now you need Middle Eastern oil, and now you have to be basically paying for terrorist oil if it's coming from some countries, which Iran is a very big producer of that oil, right? So, not saying that the whole country, let me backtrack that. All my people of Iran, I apologize. That's not what I meant. Not the country and the people of Iran, but the terrorists behind Iran. Anyways, just to clear that up. So, the U.S. State Department has released, obviously, very heavy warnings for all over the world. Although at this point, if you were planning on traveling to any of those countries or anywhere near there, you've got to be a complete idiot. So please don't do that. It's not a good idea for you to go ahead and do that. But what other cards do they hold other than Hormuz at this point? They can continue to bomb Israel and go back and forth. At some point, yes, Israel is going to run out of missile interceptors. They have their dome, the Iron Dome, but they only have a certain number of interceptors to intercept missiles coming from Iran. Now, just to let you know, before this whole war started, Iran had approximately 1,600 to 1,800 missiles. How much does Israel have in order to counteract that, and when do they run out versus when does Iran run out? Now, it was also heard that Iran was even deploying fake missiles to be able to act as if they were sending real missiles, but still keep on to their stockpile. So, a lot of different things happening here, y'all. As always, we will keep you updated, but damn, by the time we get back next week, it ain't gonna matter, because this is going to be a completely changed game. The only thing I'm praying for is that we do not see World War III. But right now, I can tell you it ain't looking great in that aspect either. One other thing I do want to say is that China is a big player in this. Why? Because China's reliance on oil from Iran. China, more than 90% of Iran's oil is to China. So China pretty much has to defend Iran. They could always just pay more for oil, but do we really think they're going to do that? No. So if that's the case, well then, what's going to happen there? Remember what I said earlier, China and U.S. That's how I thought World War III was going to start. Maybe they still are the player here, which, by the way, we can never count out China and Taiwan. That is always a situation that we have to worry about, a situation on the precipice of catastrophe. Catastrophe. Now, we got some comments here. Thank y'all for tuning in. Let's get to some comments here first on Instagram. My brother Amul, why are you dressed like Manny Ramirez from the Fanatics? Look, I know I look like maybe a dude from Cuba or something, or the Dominican. I need like a cigar in my ear. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. Shout out, brother. That was probably from before we actually started this conversation, because I know you would be offering some commentary on the actual events that happened. Let's get some more here. My producer says civilian and contractors. Yep. My brother Canteen, my guest tonight, says I'm tuned in, bro. Stuck with the veterans. Hey, salute. Appreciate you helping out our veterans here. We love our military. My brother Canteen, also a veteran like myself. So salute to you, my brother. Whenever you can get on if you can still come on tonight. Love to talk sports with you. If not, it's all good. He says, if you can, I still love you to come on, brother. Let me know. You got the link. And North Korea, yes, and we always have to worry about North Korea and their nuclear weapons and when they may pop off at every moment. It's not like North Korea and South Korea don't have their own issues. So the Taiwan Chinese situation there as well. It is coming for sure. Yeah, definitely get your bicycles. You can get like me and get like electric bikes that take you around. You know what I mean? It's true though. You're definitely going to need something because that gas is going to go up. He does. Yes, he does. Trump does think that he can, clearly he showed this weekend that he can. Now, some people watching this program are on one side of the aisle. Some people watching this program are on the other side of the aisle. Let's take a look at what they're actually saying on both sides of the aisle. Well, first of all, on the liberal side of things, they are saying that President Trump violated the United States Constitution, that he violated the Wars Power Act of 1973 that says that only Congress can adjudicate and approve for a war. Now, let's look at that from the other side. There are actually provisions to that, and shout out to Flo from the Bottom Line Sports who actually posted this, but there are actually provisions to that for presidents to actually use their powers in time of wars, things like that, which technically this can be counted as such. Now, we had not been yet attacked, and that's where a lot of the people like AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, has come out and said that he impulsively risked launching a war that may ensnare us for generations. Absolutely and clearly grounds for impeachment. So she wants to impeach Trump over this. Obviously not going to happen, and I don't think it should either. While I do agree President Donald Trump is a bully, he is a strong man, as we've talked about a lot on this program. Sometimes, like now, that comes into handy. And so, while I personally, if I were president, would have waited to make sure to see if they tried to attack us first, I in no way can say that I think he made the wrong decision. Yes, Michael Enoch, you are correct. In the War Powers Act of 1973, it does say that he has to go to Congress before Congress to get approval to go to war. But as I had also mentioned, there are provisions to that for the president under wartime, things like that, where he can actually supersede Congress and make the decision on his own. Now, again, that's why I was saying I would have waited to see if he attacked us, because if they attacked us, then the president can easily say, that we're going to go to war. But not to do what every other president has done. A lot of people would argue that, and you may be right, sir. A lot of people in Congress agree with you, especially people on the left. A lot of people on on the conservative side would not agree with that assessment. But you're right about one thing, Michael. This is something that we have never seen before from every other president. Now, on the conservative side of the aisle, they will tell you that's the good thing, that no other president had the cojones to actually do something like this. Where on the other side of the aisle, they'll tell you we need to, if we're going to be the master of global peace, that we need to be more providential when it comes to other people around the world. And I can agree partly with that as well. We are a nuclear power. So, yes, we don't want Iran to have nuclear capabilities because they chant death to America, because so on and so forth. But also, it is kind of hypocritical to tell other countries what they can and cannot do with nuclear powers or with their regime change or other things, which is another thing we really have no say in. But again, I understand because they chant death to America, and we don't want them to be able to have that capability to do that to us. No, he hasn't won anything yet, and no one is actually going to win at all when it comes down to the end of this. There is no winner in this situation. Let's get that straight right now. There is no winner from before when Ukraine and Russia were bombing each other. There was no winner when Israel and Iran were bombing each other. There's no winners in any war situation. But as most of us know, or anybody who's just looked back on the history of the world, there are competing religions, competing races, competing factions all around the world that are continuing to have war for centuries and hundreds of centuries. That's never going to end. These are all included in this. And that is unless you have the destruction of a whole population, which we've seen many of times in the past. It's not good that genocide is one of the ways that people get rid of other competing factions. But unfortunately, that is the history of the world. And that is what we have seen. I'm not disagreeing with that. He did more than any other president. And again, that's the thing, though, right? So some people would say, well, they chant death to America. We need to make sure that they're not nuclear capable, so they're not going to be able to attack us. And then you have the other side, which will say, okay, but we need to give countries leeway, and we have not leeway, but providence, as we have a constitution here that says we have certain steps, certain procedures that need to be adhered to in order to be able to start a war. So I do agree with that. If it's the same as if you commit a crime and are now a felon, you can't own a firearm. True statement. You are not allowed to own a firearm if you commit a crime. And it's how you're going to look at this and which side of the aisle, honestly, you stand on. I am neutral. I am in the middle. I am on neither side, as everyone who watches this program knows. I just come to bring you the facts. But I do, from time to time, want to give you, obviously, in something like this, being a veteran, being in the Air Force, being very close to these kind of situations for a long time in the past, I am very highly knowledgeable about these situations. So I want to just provide to you the expertise that I do have here. And I mean, that expertise says that whether he had to go through Congress or not, which I completely agree, he's supposed to go to Congress and he probably should have. Agreed. I agree with that. I would not have done it personally. That being said, I support what he did. I support what he did. Because if they chant, which they're still chanting, death to America now, if they're still saying that they're never going to surrender and they want to kill us and kill our allies, which again is another thing, depending on where you stand, do you think Israel should even be as strong as allies as they are? Again, that depends where you stand. I don't know, but people talk about that differently. What I do know is they are our allies, and we do have to protect them, and we do have to take their side over Iran. And I do know that I would rather Iran not be nuclear capable, because if they are, then I know that's more harm to possibly people. Also, as I've talked about many times in this program, shit rolls uphill for us, going to cause problems for us mostly. So, and that's another thing. Same for we can't really trust them. we can't trust them, and that's what I'm saying. We can't trust them with the nuclear weapons. So I support us dropping the bombs on the nuke sites, and it kind of showed when Iran later was very performative in saying, "Hey, we're gonna shoot missiles. Make sure you knock them down and tell your people to get out of there." Because they wouldn't mess with us. Put it that way. They're scared of the United States because they know what we could do. Now they also know that we are halfway across the world and they have more interaction with Israel, but they still know what we are capable of. And this showed that. So I agree. Yes, should he have probably gone to Congress and asked first? Probably. They probably would have said yes anyways. Well, maybe not. I take that back. I don't know. We have a Republican-led Congress, but still, I don't know. Maybe not. You might have got enough Republicans to say no. But while I personally would have asked first or not done it if I was president, I do know it had to be done. It had to be done. Because eventually they were going to be nuclear capable, and eventually they were going to either attack our allies, which is still going to affect us, or even at some point attack us. Because let's not act like Russia can't reach us. And Russia is an ally of Iran. I watched a whole documentary just yesterday because I wanted to make sure I had updated facts on the Russia and United States nuclear stockpile and intercontinental ballistic missiles and submarine launched based missiles. And believe you me, it would be mutually assured destruction versus the United States and Russia. So we definitely do not want anything like that to happen. And this is something that could possibly spur off Russia a little bit too, as it may China. Hey, that does not surprise me. And yeah, you're not going to get any disagreement from me here against anything Iran does, because they are supported a lot. And again, I'm not talking about the civilian Iranian people. There are a lot of good civilian Iranian people, a lot of good ones, a lot of them that I know. But the regime that has control right now is backed by a lot of factions such as Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, and otherwise. I agree. Israel could have defeated them themselves. I said that last week on this program. They did not need us, but in order to attack the nuclear sites, they did need us because they didn't have those 30,000-pound bombs that were needed to destroy the nuclear capabilities, or at least denigrate them a little bit. They would say that every regime is crazy going on right now. Some people would say that. Let's see. Russia and China ain't going to do anything. My friend, I wouldn't go that far. I have foremost expert knowledge on every participant that we're talking about now, and I can tell you they are very capable and very willing. The only thing keeping them from doing that is, again, mutually assured destruction. That's the one thing that keeps the United States and Russia, or the United States and China, from a nuclear war, is the fact that if we do that, pretty much everyone is going to die, at least in that area of the world, because it would just continue to be nuclear bombs deployed everywhere until everybody was dead. Now, there would obviously be people in other parts of the world that wouldn't necessarily hit by nuclear bombs, but when you launch that many nuclear bombs, then you have nuclear fallout, and you have the winds that push the stuff across the seas, and then all of a sudden everybody in the world is dead, and then we go back to the Ice Age. It's going to happen eventually. That's how this world is going to end. I think we all know that. I don't think we need an evangelist to tell us that, although the evangelists are out now saying this is the end of the world, that it was prophesied in Ezekiel 7:8, which I didn't go read up on it, but this is what one of the evangelists said, that Iran and Israel and Russia would be the types to start this sort of thing. So, and I mean, I've always said that was how it was going to happen myself. So, no, shouldn't bank on it, but I always figured that's how that was going to happen. I figured it was going to be us or China. I thought it was going to be us versus China that would start World War III, but either way, it's coming. It's coming. I mean, the world's going to end at some point. The world's not going to last forever. And I figure World War III is how the world's going to end. Just how I feel. All right. Anyways, enough about that negativity there. We'll see what happens here. Again, we'll keep you updated, but that is a lot of stuff from the weekend. Wowzers. Let's hope again that they don't shut down that Strait of Hormuz with that up to 20% of world daily oil and gas flow. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they come to the table now to negotiate or talk with Trump. But again, as we said, you got to know that Israel is back to bombing them right now. So there's not even a ceasefire. So, anyways, well, that's the world news. Again, thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS on YouTube. I hope I taught you a lot of things. I try to bring as much knowledge, obviously not just from my personal knowledge, but I also do a lot of research before I come to these programs. So I hope I helped you all learn a little bit about the situation at hand. But there's a lot more to come from this. All right. Moving on. But shout out to all my military, though, and veterans. Great job. I mean, if you were going to say that someone should be striked and a strike should be done, it couldn't have got much more precision than that unless you absolutely knew that you affected their nuclear capabilities completely. And obviously, we won't have that assessment just yet. What about those ICE raids? Let's move into United States news. I posted a short on this earlier because, last week there was the No King's Day parades that came after the Los Angeles protests, some call raids at some points during it. So there was a lot of consternation about how ICE was going about performing their jobs, even people on the conservative side of the aisle going about talking about how things were done and how they didn't like how things were being employed. I apologize. I missed a comment here from my brother, the Lion Reese Penn. Y'all make sure you tap in with the Rec Room. He was my guest last week on the sports show last Wednesday. You go check that out. He says, civis pacem parabellum. It's Latin. I don't know what it means. But if you want to hit me with what that means, I would truly appreciate that. Not one for Latin. It's just too hard. Thank you. Much appreciated, Pops. All right. So anyways, as we were saying, the LA protest came after the ICE raids. And then after that, a lot of things went into play. Again, go check out that short I put out today. A lot of people had some comments on that short about what was actually happening. A lot of people are on one side of the aisle very disgusted with the ICE raids and how things have been found out, going in and taking people from their jobs. I think the most incoherent is taking people from their actual immigration hearings. Like I could even understand from anywhere else, but literally from hearings where they're trying to become citizens, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like that should be like the last place. But a lot of places, Home Depot, constructions, hotels, restaurants in Nashville, they did supposed ICE raids on Broadway. Then I read an article that ICE raids have surged here in Middle Tennessee, and they have apprehended 544 people in the past week. But a lot of times, as we mentioned before, those people aren't always illegal. A lot of them are, or not a lot of them, but some of them are here legally, which just again coincides with the broad swath versus scalpel that the administration is employing. If we did things a little more snugly, more tightly, not only would we save money and not waste money, but we also wouldn't cause as many issues as we are causing. Now, another thing that people had a problem with here was the fact that, and Agricultural Secretary Brooke Wallins, as I mentioned last week, came out and said, hey, Trump, you're hurting the agricultural industry, our farmers, our restaurant workers, things like that. One side of the aisle, the liberal side of the aisle, the Democrats, would say, hey, we need to make sure that we're supporting these people that have been here, we're hardworking, innocent people, and try to get them the citizenship they need. The conservative side of the aisle would say, no, kick them all out, these people, farmers and and farm owners and should be paying the workers more or hiring Americans. And we can get into that. You've seen my short on Americans and how lazy we are, and we're not going to do that work. Most of us won't. I won't. I'm American, and I wouldn't do any of that work, and a lot of us wouldn't. Let's be completely honest. Not to mention, if we were, we'd have to be paid more. A lot of those farm owners and all these other things are not even making enough money now to be able to support workers in general, much less not even skilled, but just more expensive workers, because you can't even say that Americans would necessarily be more skilled either when it comes to that. But this is a very contentious topic. I did want to say, when it comes to President Trump's new ICE guidance, in which he said they were to stop ICE raids at restaurants, at farms, at hotels, and they were to stop all arrest of non-criminals. That's what everybody thought you were doing beforehand. That's what your base thought you were doing. That's what the independents like myself thought you were doing. It's what the Democrats thought you were doing. Right? And had you stuck with that, well, then there wouldn't be this issue of now you're going to have to go back on your word, and now we can't be targeting everybody, just criminals. And my point being, because the short I did was how it hurts the U.S. economy. Check this. Here's your professor's fact on this. It's an estimated 42% of hired crop workers, or more than 480,000 people, lack legal working authorization. So almost 500,000 people of crop workers in our country. And if you add the hospitality industry, the figure exceeds 1.1 million people. So if you're saying that's 1.1 million hardworking, innocent people that you're now taking out of the economy, yes, that's going to clearly damage our economy and hurt American businesses. Now, on the other side of the subject here, officials have stopped. I don't want to say deported, because the number that they've deported doesn't really matter per se. Because again, it's not about getting rid of hardworking, innocent people that aren't criminals. If that's what you wanted to do, you could have done that too, I guess. But it's more about, okay, getting those criminals out, which I completely agree with, obviously, and keeping people out unless they're able to come in legally. Now, if you look at it from that side of the aisle, border encounters are down 175% year over year. They're down from 180,000 a year last year during when Joe Biden was president, and 12,000 now when Donald Trump is president. So if you're looking at border encounters and crossing of the border, you've got to say that that's a success if your main goal was to prevent border crossings. But again, that's way different from actually taking out hardworking, innocent people. Which brings us to the Dodgers. The Los Angeles Dodgers actually have a big role to play in the LA protest. What happened since last week? Well, when this started happening, the Dodgers were said to be supporting the Hispanic community, to being against the ICE raids and things of that sort. But then they had a Mexican singer, Neza, who went to perform the national anthem at Dodger Stadium, was told not to sing in Spanish, only in English. She sung both anyways, was banned. Her agency was told they were banned from sending any artists to the Dodgers. Then turned around, the Hispanic and Latino community started to boycott the Dodgers. I told you last week I would go find out a proportion of Dodgers fans that were Hispanic versus the rest of the league, and I did exactly that for you. The Dodgers claim that their fan base is 40% Hispanic. The MLB average is 19%, which means that the Dodgers fans are more than double the percent Hispanic than any normal MLB team, which means that when you piss those people off, you are definitely going to get boycotted and your pockets are going to hurt very badly. Not to mention, there's a lot of Mexican, brown, and black people in Los Angeles that support the Dodgers. So, Dodgers, you best tread very, very lightly and very, very carefully on this sort of issue on where you stand. I would take a more neutral stance if I were the Dodgers, because alienating 4/10 of your fan base, I can take away almost half of your profit very, very quickly. Moving on. In other news, let's move into a little bit of entertainment news here. Update you on a few subjects. Musician and producer Phineas O'Connell, the brother of Billie Eilish pop superstar, said he was tear gassed by law enforcement in one of those protests a couple weeks ago. Obviously, we talked about how those protests were in response to the ICE raids, and so he went and attended one of those protests in which the federal officials, the federal officers that were there ended up using tear gas against the crowd, in which he actually was hit with some of that tear gas. Now, he said it was a very peaceful protest when the tear gas started. I will tell you from attending a lot of these sort of events, something at some point usually pops off between one side or the other that causes something to happen. But definitely tear gassing innocent civilians is not the way you want to go, even if you need to keep control. But, he was very upset about that. He had some choice words for ICE in general, saying F ICE on his social media. There were other people that were very, very upset, quoting the Insurrection Act and things that we talked about last time we were on this program, which we're not going to get back into about. You can go back last week and check it out. But both sides of the aisles have different ways of how they're going to look at it, as we talk about on everything on this program. And I come only to give you both sides. Cool? All right. Well, let's keep it moving. More entertainment news. Let's update you on that trial. Yes, Sean Diddy Combs trial. What is the update now? One of the jurors has been dismissed due to the fact that he was a hip hop fan back in the day. Go figure. A case in New York had a hip hop fan that was a juror. Look, most people would be happy to get off of jury duty, and most people actually try to get called out for those sorts of things that would make them a conflict of interest. But I'm sure that wasn't going to necessarily push him one way or the other, because maybe he liked Diddy's music. I don't foresee that being the way that was going to go. But hey, if that's what the judge decided to do, this case is just crazy, man. Everything from the witnesses to the judge, even the judge has just been, it's always in these celebrity cases where the judges are just completely outlandish as well. And this guy has been off his rocker too. It's like they know they want to be in the news as well, since the case is in the news. So they always do some kind of crazy stuff just to be in the, get some water real quick. Thank you. So anyways, we'll see what happens. As always, we keep you updated here. But as I said, I keep thinking more and more and more that Diddy may have been right for pleading not guilty and not taking that plea deal. I think he's going to get out of it. I think he's going to walk away. And I never said this before because I always thought he was going to get it. I thought he was going to go away for a long, long time. I really did. But as this has pursued this case, I keep getting farther and farther away from finding any reason to convict him for RICO charges. Now, the only thing they may be able to get him for, and which I would get him for, as I've mentioned before, is the sexual prostitution across state lines. But that charge doesn't carry as much time as, obviously, the other charges do that could get him life or, at least 10, 20 years, like RICO. This sexual prostitution charge across state lines ain't going to get him that. I don't know. It's a crazy, crazy case. We keep you updated here as always on the Professor Semanalmente. Make sure you subscribe to Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS. Hit that like button if you're watching on the live or the replay. It definitely helps us out. Canteen, if you're still tuned in, are you going to be able to make it today, or do you want me to roll into the sports without you, my brother? Let me know I am going to move into the sports now. We have a lot of news to talk about in the sports world. What happened? The Oklahoma City Thunder are your 2025 NBA champions, which reminds me, as I see Bobby G checking in on the IG, shout out my brother. Tomorrow night, again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, check out our NBA season roundtable tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, here on Ball and Buds on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. YouTube and Instagram. It's on my personal Facebook, which if you ain't my friend, you can't. No, I'm just joking. I put it on public. If you look up Omar Fonseca, you can find it. Either way, we will have Bobby G from the Audible Sports Podcast. We will have Mel from Man Down Sports and my brother Jay from Unfair Sports. My brother's coming on to join us. We're going to talk some NBA season round ball manana, and this will be one of the sources, or one of the subjects rather, that we talk about. So this marked the 20th time in NBA history that we have reached a Game 7. The longest stretch in between that was 11 years, between the Knicks and Rockets in 94, the Pistons and Spurs in 2005. The league has seen back-to-back final Game 7s 3 times in history. 1951 and 1952, 1954 and 1955, and 1969-1970. The Celtics and the Lakers each played in a total of 8 final Game 7s. How did we get to this Game 7? Game 1, let me give you the recap real quick of the 2025 NBA Championship Series. Game 1, remember Tyrese Halliburton hit the game-winning jumper to steal a victory in Oklahoma City. Game 2, Thunder comes out blistering offense, suffocating defense in the first half, holds off the Pacers. Game 3, Benedict Mathurin goes off for the Indiana Pacers. Game 4, SGA, the MVP, shows up to tie the series up. Game 5 was a crucial game in this series. If you will remember, the score turned out a 7-point margin, 111-104, but at the beginning of the fourth quarter, the Pacers were in striking distance, and unfortunately, they turned the ball over way too much. They let SGA go get into his bag uncontested, and it just pretty much went downhill, and that's what changed everything. If Indiana could have won that game in Game 5 and taken that game like they were in the back and forth, instead of letting the Thunder go up 1, I believe the Pacers would have had a better chance come Game 6 and possibly Game 7. That said, it didn't matter. It was the Jalen Williams game where he had 40, SGA had 30. Move on to Game 6, Halliburton. Calf injury. A lot of people waffling. Is he injured? Is he faking it? Whatever. Was it just a little bit? And now he's trying to play it out and get the sympathy and blah, blah. He plays through the injury. Pacers win. Force Game 7. Still a little bit of will he, won't he? Is he injured? Is he not injured? A lot of people are not. I said I thought he was injured. I didn't think obviously it was that bad, but I thought he was injured enough to the point where something could go wrong if he had to compensate. And boy, I wish I was not right at all. That's exactly what I believe happened. If you look at the play, it looks like he was trying to compensate for that calf strain. He had a hot start. He was shooting the ball from all over the place. He had drained 3 threes, so he was playing very well. He started off the dribble, extended the leg, and it looked like Jason Tatum. It looked, like Donovan Mitchell. Or not Donovan Mitchell. Excuse me. What's the other one? Forgetting the name right now. Anyways, someone help me out. It looked like, a lot of other people who have been injured. You could even go back to Kevin Durant when he injured his calf. Klay Thompson when he had his Achilles. And these are always horrendous, horrible injuries to see. You wish you never saw them, but you know right away when they happen. And right when it happened, I was like, that's an Achilles. Not good. And it wasn't good for the Pacers. From there on out, they put up a little bit of a fight, but they didn't have it in them. Not enough to beat the Thunder, who honestly were the best team all year long. There's a reason that they won 68 regular season games and a reason that they won 84 overall games. You can come out and start to talk the trash about how they had an easy road. Every team they played had injuries. Blase, blah. I heard the same crap last year when my Celtics won the championship. So I'm not going to give any credence to that. You play who you play, whether or not a person was injured and it gives you the upper hand. Maybe injuries happen. I could complain about Kendrick Perkins getting hurt back in 2009 or 2010, and that being why we lost to the Lakers. I'm not going to do it. Have I done it before? Sure. I'm not going to lie, but I'm not going to do it right now. I have done it before. Not going to lie. I was very upset about that because we would have won that championship. Anyways, does not matter. Thunder win. SGA becomes the first player in history, get this, to win the scoring title, the regular season MVP, the conference finals MVP, and the finals MVP. And you say, how the heck is that, Omar? That cannot be possible. Shout out Bajoan Malave. Yerp, my brother. How can that be possible, Omar? We'll let the professor teach you some things. Oh, I had the sports professor on there instead of the professor the whole time. We had to fix that in the rewind. But either way, so the conference finals MVP didn't start till 2022. So while you can imagine Michael Jordan probably would have won this, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson back in the day, conference finals weren't handed out to 2022. So he's the only one ever to do that. Now, there is something more that needs to be looked into, those Achilles injuries and things. I think that's a very ominous trend. It's 8 in the past year of mainstream ones. That doesn't even count. There was a couple Indiana players that were hurt. There was a couple G League players. So they definitely got to start looking into ways to prevent this from happening to NBA players, because it is sad to see. As for the Thunder, there is the first championship since moving from Seattle. Previously, the Seattle Supersonics won the NBA title in 1979. Thunder got here very quickly. Even their GM, Sam Presti, has said so himself, saying they got here a lot quicker than they thought they would, which could bode well or could not bode well. Yes, OKC has a lot of picks, which they acquired and wasn't expected to be here at this point, but also at some point, they are going to have to start signing long-term deals for some of these players on their roster that is going to put them into apron territory, and will have to make them making some hard choices, as my Celtics had to make, or are having to make, this offseason themselves. That being said, OKC boast the fourth youngest roster with an average age of 24.7 years of age on their roster, which is incredible for them and makes them here's another professor's fun fact, NBA's second youngest champion, trailing only the 1977 Trailblazers, who had an average age of 24.2 years old, led by the 24-year-old great, may he rest in peace, one of my favorite basketball players of all time, the great Bill Walton, and one of my favorite people of all time. Now, the 2015 Warriors won their first title at an average age of just over 26 and went on to win 3 more titles with that core. Can Oklahoma do the same? I mean, look, everything is wide open next year. I don't see why Oklahoma City couldn't go back-to-back. I am right now going to give, now obviously Vegas has them as the favorites to go back-to-back. I don't see, aside from my, maybe a couple contenders in the East, my Celtics, I can see Jaylen Brown leading the Celtics back to a championship. Jaylen Brown is a number one. If Porzingis can stay healthy, and if they keep Derek White at least, or even both White and Holiday, which they're probably not going to do, probably White at least, then they could be a championship team. The Knicks, you got to look into if they can ever find a coach. We'll talk about that tomorrow on the NBA Season Roundtable, 8 p.m. Eastern on Bowl and Buds tomorrow night. Check that out. There's a couple other teams in the mix there, but the Oklahoma City are the favorite, and I don't see why they shouldn't win, if not back-to-back, at least 1, maybe 2 more titles if they can take that same trajectory that the Golden State Warriors took. Now, SGA is eligible for a 4-year, $293 million extension that could increase to $380 million over 5 years if he waits a year, which you better believe he's going to do that. Why the hell wouldn't you just wait a year? Now, he could fear the injury, could fear the Achilles, and maybe just want to take the 293 and be good with it and sign it. You could do that as well. Actually, yeah, I think that's what I would do. I wouldn't be greedy. I'd take the 293 and just hope that I didn't get injured. Because then you risk that year of possibly getting injured and then not getting that 380 bag and missing out on what's that? That's a Dennis Schroeder type bag right there. Oh, that's an 87 million dollar bag. That's a Dennis Schroeder type bag right there that you're losing out on. You can't do that. You can't do that. You got to take the bag. Take the bag, SGA. Don't do it. Don't bet the extra year. Just take the 293 million, my bro. Anyways, they're gonna have some problems with the apron at some point, but they better hope they can win at least one, possibly two. Regardless, this is the 7th champion in 7 years in the NBA, the 5th team in league history to notch at least 68 regular season wins and a championship. They are also the 9th team in 12 years to win the title and the 4th. I apologize. The 4th, take that back. They are the 4th franchise to win their first title in the past 12 years. So there you go. So that's pretty good, right? That's what Adam Silver wants with this tax apron now that they've put in all the luxury taxes. They want to bring parity back to the game. And so you're seeing now the 7th season in a row of a new NBA champion. That's parity at its best. You can't ask for nothing else when it comes to that. And again, OKC has the core to break that streak next year. So we'll see if they do. I think they have a really good chance to do so. What do y'all think? Do you think OKC can go back to back? Hit me in those comments. Let me know. Do you think OKC had an easy road to the championship? Also, let me know how you feel. Hit me in those comments. Hit that like button, whether you're watching live or on the replay. As well, make sure you subscribe to Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS. Handy QR code up top there at the top for you. Let's get through a couple more bits of news. Again, tomorrow we're going to talk more about NBA, so I'm not going to go through this a lot because I want to get the experts with me to talk this. Kevin Durant traded over the weekend to the Rockets. If you saw the show last week with me and my boy, the Lion Reese Penn from the Rec Room, you make sure you tap in with him. If you saw that show last week, you'll know we talked possible Durant trades, and you'll know that I said, and he agreed with me, that I believe the Rockets were the best place for Kevin Durant to go. I believe they were a lethal scoring option, spot up shooting option away from a championship. They got the youth, they got the defense, they got the coach. All they needed was a Kevin Durant, and boy, oh boy, did they get him. Now, they had to give up Jalen Green, great young piece. I think you do that for a Kevin Durant, at least because you got to think at this point, with the way that Durant recovered very nicely from that Achilles surgery and how well Klay Thompson has played since then without really getting too many injuries. You got to think that Durant will hold out a couple more years and possibly help them win that title. That's why they're getting Durant, is to get this title. Now, they didn't give up as much as they didn't have to give as much as Orlando gave up for Desmond Bane, who 5 freaking first round picks. They did give up 5 second round picks, which I guess could be close enough depending on where those teams fall. I know, at least Orlando is going to be later in the draft at the very least. But again, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, 10th round pick in this draft, so they get a high draft pick, at least the Suns do. Well, I'm going to ask the experts about this tomorrow because the Suns got a bunch of shooting guards and nobody else. I imagine they finally got to get rid of Bradley Beal like they've talked about for years, because there ain't no way you're going to run it back with 5 shooting guards and no DeAndre Ayton, no center, no big man. We'll talk about all of that tomorrow. Y'all make sure you tune in. It's gonna be an amazing NBA roundtable tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Ball and Buds. All right. Other news in sports. about to call them the Los Angeles, the LSU Tigers. Yes, Tigers. The LSU Tigers have, I don't know if I said that correctly, and I don't want to be attacked by any LSU fans. But the LSU Tigers won the College World Series, their 8th in school history and 2nd in 3 years. Yes, LSU is a perennial amazing baseball team, and they are one of the best baseball teams in college baseball history. They proved it again, from jello shots to fan attendance. LSU never disappoints, and they won the College World Series. In other sporting news, Keegan Bradley won the Travelers Championship in a dramatic ending. They had 3 people, actually 4 if you count Jason Day, within 2 strikes of the lead going into the last 3 holes. Came down where you almost had a 3-way playoff, but no. Oh, man, what were you doing, Tommy Fleetwood? I saw it coming. That's why I didn't bet on you. I bet on Day at the beginning of the day. I bet on Day, no pun intended, to win, because I thought I saw Fleetwood's collapse coming. I saw that he was up and down all 4 rounds. I saw he started at a +2. I was like, nah, he gonna fade out, and he did exactly that. I was between Day and Bradley. I ended up picking Day. Should have picked Bradley, obviously, but that's okay. Bradley, salute to him to winning the Travelers Championship. In women's golf news, salute to Minjee Lee. The 29-year-old won the KPMG Women's PGA Championship. Wowzers. And her 3rd major in her career. She has been very, very good since she came into the forefront of women's golf. So salute to Minjee Lee for her PGA Championship win. In tennis news, Carlos Alcaraz, he just won the French Open 2 weeks ago. We talked about the amazing match that he had. Now this week, he adds another win with the Queen's Club Championship held on grass. Carlos Alcaraz is on a roll. All right. Other news before we get out of here for the day. Oh, you know what? Yes, I do have a couple. One thing that I forgot about back when I was talking about the College World Series. So you remember earlier when I said in the Diddy case, judges sometimes like to be a little ludicrous so they can be in the news? Sometimes umpires like to do that as well. And the umpire in the LSU Coastal Carolina game ejected the head coach and the first base coach from Coastal Carolina, which I believe cost him the game. Obviously, it's a huge loss and a huge dent to your momentum and to your psyche. Pretty much, it was a horrible ejection. Very, very quick on the eject. Wasn't for maybe arguing balls and strikes, which you're not supposed to, but come on now, it's the championship game. You just cannot do that. So, boo to that. Boo that man. Someone boo that umpire. I do not like that at all. But what I do want a couple of pitchers I do want to salute from there, though. Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson, LSU's top 2 pitchers. Y'all better watch out for them. They are going to be something special in the MLB as long as they can stay healthy. In other news, Wisconsin University has a lawsuit filed against the University of Miami for tampering. Uh-oh, y'all. Here it comes. Here comes the NIL fallout and the NCAA paying players fallout. We knew things were going to happen, and these are things that will continue to start happening. A fallout. Now, Wisconsin University has filed a lawsuit against Miami for taking one of their players, allegedly saying that they tampered with former cornerback Xavier Lucas, who had signed a revenue-sharing agreement with Wisconsin before leaving in January to play for Miami, despite never having entered the transfer portal. That does sound like grounds for a lawsuit. They probably won't win because we're in a wild west new frontier, but that is at least grounds for a lawsuit. They're seeking unspecified damages from Miami. Again, I can't see that happening with the Wild West that we're in and the lack of adjudications and lack of rules and lack of standards around these procedures yet. I just can't see that happening as of yet. I forgot. Also, in women's tennis news, women's tennis stars now will have, this is great news, they will have their world rankings protected during fertility treatments. So, if a women's tennis player were to get pregnant and have a baby, if they were ranked in the top 750, if they missed 10 weeks of competitive tennis for fertility treatments to be able to become pregnant, then they would be able to keep their rankings for at least those 10 weeks. So when they came back, they would be able to get right back into where they were on the standings. A couple notes in baseball. Commissioner Rob Manfred announced last week that the ABS, the automated ball strike, colloquially known as the robot umpires, could be implemented as early as next season in Major League Baseball. Now, this would not be a complete overhaul. It won't be for every call. It will only be for challenges to start out, probably 2-3 challenges a game for each team to use on balls and strikes. But Manfred has been using this in the minor leagues, and 64%, now there was a survey, 63.4% of players were against these robot umps, 17% in favor, 19.5% unsure. So players still in mass against this. But again, if it were to be brought in, it would be at strictly a challenge basis starting off. In UFC news, and I'll talk about this with my brother Clubber D this Saturday, again, to be announced on that UFC 317 show this Saturday. We'll let you know. Also, don't forget the 8 Eastern Thursday boxing show with Skywalker Boxing Media, 86 Boxing, Josh coming through, Papi Chunyeo, Clubber D, and yours truly. Again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, don't forget any of those shows. But John Jones has officially retired from UFC. Now, we see these retirements in combat sports all the time, so we'll see if this actually happens. I feel like this was more, and I have to get Clubber D's expert opinion on this, but I feel like this was more of a Dana White forcing his hand since John Jones hasn't fought other than Stipe Miocic, and the fact that Tom Aspinall was just sitting there waiting for fights. I'm glad to see this happen. If John Jones wasn't going to fight, I'm sorry. I want to see the belts defended. I don't want to see them on a shelf, no matter how much I like John Jones as a fighter. So we'll see, though. I don't believe retirements in combat sports. He could easily come back next year, and Dana White would happily take him back for all the money that he would make for him, at least in my opinion. Again, I have to get Clubber D's expert opinion on that. In other news in the fighting world, former UFC star champion Conor McGregor, we'll also talk about this with Clubber D, was caught on camera punching a civilian at a nightclub in Ibiza, Spain. It was a brief verbal exchange before McGregor delivered 2 lefts, knocking the man to the floor. Definitely going to get sued on that one, Conor. Not smart at all. We'll see what Clubber D has to think about that. In other news that we'll talk about, other bad boy news in the sports, is our bad boy sports portion of the news. I should have announced that first. I should have said this was our bad boys portion of the sports news. But anyways, so in the big 3, Steven Jackson got into a fight after the game, screaming in the locker room. Then you also had Dwight Howard and Lance Stevenson getting into a beef and a fight on the court. Bad boys getting through it. Other news, Antonio Brown is wanted by Miami authorities on criminal charges of attempted murder, allegedly stemming from a celebrity boxing event in which apparently Antonio Brown says he was jumped. People trying to take his jewelry, and he pulled out his gun to scare them away. I don't know. He didn't actually say that about the gun. I'm just assuming that's what happened because there is a camera that catches him obviously pulling out or in an altercation allegedly, and then allegedly holding what looks like a black pistol. So, by the way, y'all, social media is all over. And when you're at one of these influencer events, You got to be better. You got to be careful because these people they're filming all the time. The streamer Aiden Ross, who rolls with iSpeed, one of his boys, like he's the one that actually had the videotape of the fight. So it's like now this little kid, this streamer, done got your grown ass caught up with the police. Good job. Come on, Antonio Brown. We know you got ICE in that. I mean, ICE. Maybe I have it. I can't even think of what it's called now. Somebody help me out. Damn it. Maybe I have it. No, I'm in the sky, baby. I'm in the sky. Up to the sky. Anyways, so yeah, got to be more careful there. Someone help me out. CT. Thank you. I don't know. I just remembered it. Anyways, a couple more news before we get you out of here for the day. This is an update to a story I did a long time ago on the Mind of the Professor. But if you'll remember, there was a Major League Baseball story way back in the day. Rest in peace, Tyler Skaggs, who overdosed on some drugs that he had acquired, and it turned out that he had acquired it from a former clubhouse employee. Well, the clubhouse employee was actually sentenced to a long period of jail time. But it actually turns out that new testimony has come to light from that case after a motion for summary judgment was filed that actually says that pitcher Wade Miley, who is still in the league with the Cincinnati Reds, was also one of the people who provided the prescription drugs to Tyler Skaggs. So this is a huge new wrench thrown into the this case here in terms of the Anaheim Angels, or now they were the Anaheim Angels at the time. They're now your Los Angeles Angels. So we'll keep you updated on that as well. And to go back, rounding back as I like to do, one more point about that Dodgers story. The point that I meant to say at first when it was weird how they were going back and forth. I got the number here. It was further down in my notes. $1 million. They denied the federal immigration officials access to their parking lots and announced $1 million in assistance to immigrant families, but yet then didn't let the singer sing the anthem in Spanish. These things make no sense. Dodgers, get your life together. Peace. Don't want to talk about that anymore. Screw them. And anyone else, screw you, screw your label, screw Bad Boy as a crew and as a staff. Anyways, okay, that's enough. That is the news for today. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS on YouTube. Handy QR code there at the top. Please go ahead and scan that. That'll take you to our link tree where you can find all of our social medias. And as well, please make sure you tap in to Ball and Buds this week. Huge week this week, y'all. I'll be on tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, NBA season review roundtable, basketball experts coming through. Jay from Unfair Sports, Mel from Man Down Sports, Bobby G from Audible Sports. Gonna be an amazing NBA broadcast. Y'all tune in. Thursday night, getting my boxing Voltron crew back together. My brother Clubber D, the Combat G, our boxing expert insider, as well as Skywalker Boxing Media, Papi Chunyeo, heavy on the Papi, light on the yayo, and Josh, our brother from 86 Boxing. We gonna get together and we are going to do boxing picks for the weekend as well as boxing news. It is in promotion of the Champ Ross Boxing picks and predictions group. If you like boxing and want to get into a predictions group where you can win money picking fights on a weekly basis, let me know. I can get you involved. We'll have a show 8 p.m. Eastern Thursday promoting that. And then finally, Saturday, to be determined, Cubby the Combat G's Combat Sports for UFC 317. Cubby the Combat G, your UFC MMA insider, and yours truly, the sports professor, will be there for you Saturday. Tune in. Everything at Ball and Buds. Huge week. And then 3 shows next week, including Country Box. Country Box next week, Tuesday. Shannon, the Cannon Briggs, former heavyweight champion of the world, will be fighting. I will be there for all of your social media coverage. That being said, hey, my name is Omar, the Professor Fonseca. I appreciate. I gotta check, make sure. One more thing. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget any slides there. I am Omar, the Professor Fonseca. This has been the Professor's Semanalmente. And until tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful evening. Be kind to each other. Have a blessed and amazing Tuesday. I will see you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, same bat time, same bat channel. Love y'all. Holla. 5,000.
He's with the millions. It's that world heavyweight flow. Championship belt wrapped around my waist, yo. I got that Ric Flair figure flow. Slam you on the pavement, that's why they call me Street Pro. Create heat on beat close. Like Jordan after the second time he three-peated, folks. Get ready, set, let's go. Fight toe to toe, release the flow created by this mic pro. Lights, camera, get low. Action packed, back to back. In fact, this monster will go. Y'all better let him know. Man with the master plan, and you have no need to know. You came prepared, now